Welcome back to the channel. I didn't really know whether to put this video on this channel, on my photography channel, or to put it on my New Retired Me channel, because I'm going to talk a little bit about decluttering and getting rid of equipment. But because it's specifically camera related and gear related, I thought I would put it here. I have recently purchased the Leica Q2 monochrome, and that comes with a fixed 28 millimeter lens. 28 millimeter has become my focal length of choice. I have my phone set to 28 millimeter. I've had a 28 millimeter prime for my Canon setup. I just like that focal length for travel photography, walking around. Now, it doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of things. So I got to thinking about what equipment do I have versus what equipment do I need? Now, I've been one of those people that has tried to latch on to what I thought was the in gear when it came out. So I was very quick to jump on the Canon RF 15 to 35 f2.8. This lens was around $2,000, $2,100, I think, when I bought it. It's a beautiful lens, works great. And then, of course, I went with the 70 to 200 f2.8 later. I totally bypassed the 24 to 70 because I had the 24 to 240 and I also had the 24 to 105. And so as I started, and I had the 100 macro, and so as I started to eliminate some things, as my photography has changed, my needs have changed. And I've come to the place that because I have the Leica Q2 now as a backup camera for me, I don't need both of these Canons. And so I was working through which one do I keep and which one do I let go. Now, the EOS R is no longer being made, as I understand it. It's been phased out for a number of other cameras. But I have been using this camera exclusively as the camera that I video all of these videos on in my studio, that and the 15 to 35. I rarely take the 15 to 35 out to even photograph with anymore. I have taken it a few times to waterfalls or something like that, but most of the time I'm not using this lens. And most of the time I'm not photographing on this camera. And so it came down to, out of the two camera bodies, the R and the R6 Mark II, which one best serves my needs? Now, I'm not talking about which one is newer or which one is more expensive or any of that kind of stuff. Which one is going to do the job I need it to do best? Now, I bought the R6 Mark II. Let me make sure I'm holding the right camera up. I bought the R6 Mark II for a number of reasons. First of all, I wanted a faster shutter speed if I'm doing like sports photography. I was shooting some basketball games and some volleyball games, and the amount of frames you can get on this camera is nowhere close to this camera. So, and the other thing that I bought it for primarily was that it does in-camera focus stacking, which is kind of a neat little tool. I've done a nice video on that. But then after I stopped doing macro photography, I really didn't need this anymore. And, this one has, on the end, it has a slot for two cards, so I can do like photography on one card and video on the other card. This one only has one card. The battery for this camera lasts a little longer than the original R. There are a number of things that make this a better camera. What I like about this camera is that I can, it has a more pixels per image. This is like a 31 megapixel, something like that. I don't remember the exact number. This is more like 24. So I have a little more cropping ability on this camera. This camera handles high noise, high ISO better than this camera, but we're talking about ISO over 10 or 15,000, which I rarely ever get to. This camera also for webcam shooting will give you a clean HDMI output, so you can use it for online video. But I'm using my phone and my DJI Pocket 3 for that now, so I don't need that anymore. And so I have made a fairly controversial decision, I think, among photographers, and that is that I'm going to keep the EOS R, and I'm going to give up the R6 Mark II. And along with that, I'm also going to give up the Canon 35 millimeter macro. Now, I'm not selling these. I'm going to give these to one of my grandchildren who really enjoys photography and videography, and their dad has Canon equipment. That's what they've been trained on, but they don't have any equipment of their own. And so I'm going to give that as sort of a graduation present to that grandchild. And I'm going to hang on to the EOS R. Okay. Now, like I said, that could be controversial for some because they don't make this camera anymore. But one of the reasons that I'm hanging on to this camera and giving up this camera is because I want my grandchild to have the better of the two, first of all. But also, you know, my friend Phil Thatch has sort of teased me on and off for a while now about when I'm going to just stop using Canon and go to something else. And I really haven't had any desire to do that. However, the Canon ecosystem has really locked itself into Canon RF lenses, and you can't use Viltrox autofocus or, the TT Artisans autofocus. You can't use those autofocus lenses on the EOS R series of cameras. And I don't like that. I'm just going to be honest. I don't like that because those lenses are a lot cheaper and they're really good. So there may come a time when I stop using this camera or put it on the shelf as a backup only. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give up the 15 to 35. That's also a very controversial decision. I got this lens originally to do ultra wide photography, like inside cathedrals and other buildings where that real dramatic look works really well. However, these days I get a really usable picture using my phone, shooting in ProRes RAW. And now that I'm not using this lens to do videography anymore, because I'm using my Pocket 3 on this video, I don't really need the limitations of this ultra wide. So I'm going to give the 35 millimeter to my grandchild with the camera because I think that lens will be the best that they could get to start with to do a number of different things. I'm going to trade in my Canon 28 millimeter because, again, 28 millimeter I have on my Leica Q2 and 28 millimeter I have set on my phone. And if I need a 28 millimeter prime, I'll use my phone. But I'm going to keep the 24 to 240 f4 to 6.3. And then I think what I'm going to do, not fully decided yet, but I think I'm going to get the 24 to 70 f2.8 to replace this lens. I'd like to still have sort of that medium telephoto. 24 to 70 is a great length. And I'd like to get the 2.8 for shooting in low light situations. I might get the 24 to 70 f4 It's a lot cheaper. We'll just have to wait and see. But I am definitely making some changes with my gear. I'm already decluttered a lot of other things. I'm getting rid of all of the extra microphone sets I don't use anymore. And I've got 2 L brackets. I only need one of those. And I've gotten rid of every tripod I own except the Peak Design. Just a number of different things that I'm either trading in to get something else or just sending it to Goodwill because it's not worth the hassle of trying to sell it. My photography has changed a lot. I'm not really into chasing waterfalls like I used to be. First of all, because it's very time intensive, and second of all, because my body's not handling that really well right now. So I'm getting much more use out of my camera doing travel photography and street photography. I don't do portraits, so I don't need a really, really fast lens for that, as Phil Thatch says, that bokeh-fied background. I don't need that. And so I'm really just looking for the smallest amount of gear that I can pack. And what I'd love to have is a camera and a lens and another lens. That's really sort of where I'm headed. And the lenses could do 2 very different things. But for the most part, I may only carry 1 camera and 1 lens at a time. Anyway, that's sort of a catch up of where I am after months and months of thinking. And you can let me know what an idiot you think I am in the comments. Or if there is a better combination that you can think of. I don't need the super new, fast, ultra pro camera bodies. I just don't need it. That's not who I am as a photographer. And I think the EOS R is still going to do everything that I need it to do and do it really well. Again, let me know what you think in the comments, and we will see you again next time.